It's that time of year, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, Georgia versus Florida. Big time matchup. Got Daniel from the Gator Truth Football Podcast. We talk about the burning question: when will Billy Napier get fired? Should he get fired? How long he'll last at Florida? We get that question answered from a diehard Florida fan. Also, how good is DJ Lagway going against Georgia? He's taking the reins as the starting quarterback at Florida. Also, what does Carson Beck need to do to get better? We talk about all that, preview and prediction for Georgia versus Florida. And as always, like, subscribe, share the podcast. That really helps out. Daniel from the Gator Truth Florida Football Podcast. Hope I said that right. Pleasure to have you on again. And I know we had you on last year, but we got Georgia, Florida, Georgia, world's largest outdoor cocktail party. That is the name. I don't even identify the other ones. How are we doing today?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I don't identify the River City, whatever they want to call it. It's the world's largest outdoor cocktail party.
That's correct. Always a great event. Looks like it's going to be good weather. I was looking at it today. I think it's supposed to be like high of 81, partly sunny. When the sun goes down, because the time change is about to happen, should be great football weather. But Daniel, both teams coming in off of bye week. Florida coming off an impressive win, complete beating of Kentucky. I think it's 48-20. Georgia coming off the big win against Texas. So before we jump into the preview, anything? What do you think? Not Georgia. What do you think the Gators focused on in the offseason, or off week? And also wanted to also ask, what are we looking at? If not a lot of like big, college football fans at DJ Lagway, and what you're excited about. Heard he's got a really great cannon for an arm. He's mobile. What is Florida Nation excited about?
Oh, DJ Lagway probably is first and foremost what Gator fans are excited about. One thing, and it's not my stat, another podcaster came on and another Gator podcaster pointed out, like, he's the first Gator quarterback in like 20 plus years to have, like, I believe it was 5 completions of 40 yards or more in a game, much less 2 games in the same season. So that's really good. And that's one thing that we were missing with Graham Mertz. Graham Mertz, very solid guy, but very limited in that his downfield accuracy was not nearly as good as we've seen from Lagway. And I always told Gator fans, I will take a lower, like Mertz, for example, 78% accuracy last year on his throws, but 80% of those, 76% of those were 9 yards or less, with probably half of them being at the line of scrimmage or behind. I said, I'll give up some, completion percentage if we get some deeper throws. And I always point to Danny Werfel, 1996, wins a Heisman, 56% completion percentage. Granted, you want it higher, but it means a lot more if you're completing, balls downfield, opening up room for the running lanes. And that's what DJ Lagway does. And also DJ Lagway's mobility also helps open up the running game, which is what Billy Napier really excels at. And that's the running game, by having that dual threat, by being able to actually sell the run. Now, Graham Mertz had a couple of big runs because defenses didn't feel he would keep it, but he's also a guy who is not the most mobile or fleet of foot, where DJ Lagway has the top end speed to clear and get 20, 30 yards if he's not covered. With that said, I don't know if I see that coming too much in the Georgia game, mostly because behind DJ Lagway, our backup right now is a walk-on, Aiden Warner, who did have some experience, I believe, at Yale, but is now a walk-on at Florida. So I think we're going to try and protect DJ from, I guess you could say, unnecessary risk, without having too many design runs, I guess is the way of putting it. As far as what do we maybe work on in the bye week for the Gators, our defense has looked better. Now, some of that could be the offenses we've played. I mean, Kentucky, I think I noted on the podcast, going in and out was 115th in offense in the nation. UCF, for example, once they get to their Colorado game, they score 21 points against us. They score 13 points against Cincinnati, 13. They did have a great game in Ames, where they played Iowa State, scored 35, but then BYU basically keeps them down and they score 14 points late in the game once the game's well out of hand to make 24 points this past week against BYU. So I point to UCF as an example, and also Tennessee scoring 21.5 points per game in SEC play. And so it's not like we faced what looks to be the best offenses. So the question, Gator Nation, is, and partially what we worked on, is how much is the defense the offenses that they've faced since the first bye week, and how much of it is this defense has improved drastically since the first few games of the season. So probably a lot of focus there, especially with Jason Marshall. There is a question whether he'll play or not. He had a bad year last year, but before that was trending as a top first round pick at corner. This year was having a tremendous year, gets injured in the Kentucky game, and it's not been said whether or not he's been playing against Georgia, but chances are he will miss the game from what I'm hearing. But that could always change tomorrow. And I'd say another thing worked on in the bye week is moving the offense from what it was under Graham Mertz, where you really only had a week between Tennessee and Kentucky to try and tailor it a little bit to the strengths of DJ Lagway. And hopefully during the bye week, you spend a week trying to tailor the offense more to the strengths, which is more the downfield passing game, hitting guys open, and less of the throwing it beyond the line of scrimmage, hoping someone makes the guy miss and picks up some yards. So we'll see what that is. I know that we're facing probably our toughest defensive challenge so far of the season with you guys. And really, I think that's what Gator Nation is, to sum up that long rant, is really hoping to see how the bye week is. Is our defense as legitimate as it's looked the past 3 games? And then B, how does this offense look now that they've had more time to, tinker it around a talent like DJ Lagway?
Yeah, I completely agree. One other question is about the whole quarterback situation. So I know you don't like to see injuries, but was it a blessing in disguise, Graham Mertz getting hurt? Did kind of Gator Nation and yourself want DJ Lagway to take over the reins? Are you kind of happy with what happened, or not happy how you got hurt with the setup that you're in?
So I don't know. In a way, I think you could say it's a blessing in disguise, because I think the ceiling is much higher with DJ Lagway, because, again, going back to Graham Mertz, last year, 78, 76, 80, somewhere in there, percent of his passes were under that 9 yards or less. That allowed defenses to pack the box, safeties within 10 yards, couldn't open up run lanes. If you look at the Miami game, you'll see exactly Miami's better way of putting it, I guess. Miami's defense coordinator comes out after the game and says, we knew the 5 or 6 plays are going to run, so we just knew what it looked like beforehand, and we knew how to stop it. And that's how it felt during the game, where with DJ Lagway having that more downfield, and even when things don't look the most open, he's willing to at least take the risks. And of course, even if it's not completions, but even more so if you're completing deep balls or taking the shots, it does have to back up the defense some. So in a way, that's a blessing. I don't like Graham Mertz was a great ambassador for UF, very hard player. Enjoy everything he gave us. Unfortunately, he is out for the season. But with Graham Mertz, again, limitations on the offense that I think at least are gone for now. The downside is, as opposed to switching quarterbacks where it's like, hey, Graham, you're getting benched, but you're still there in case something happens to DJ. I think having no scholarship quarterback safety net behind DJ keeps it from even I guess using the term blessing in disguise, because now it's a catch-22. As I mentioned earlier, you can't use his full set of skills, including his legs, because if he gets hurt just on a run, now you're playing a walk-on in the SEC, and that's obviously not where we want to be with the stretch coming up. Obviously, starting with you guys, and then a trip to Austin, and then LSU, Ole Miss, and then finishing up against a bad FSU team. But we know rivalry games don't always, the records don't matter. Throw them out, right?
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. I think you guys are set up well during the down stretch. Explosive arms, going to take a lot of shots, could give Georgia some problems. But before we look into that, I want to give a shout out to our great sponsor of the show, VivaTequilaSeltzer.com. 0 carbs, 0 sugar. My personal favorite is the watermelon, elderberry, grapefruit, huckleberry, also flavors. And they had a new coconut flavor that's been sold out. So check them out. Dawg House 20 for 20% off. Again, that's Dawg House 20. Check out VivaTequilaSeltzer.com, also on Instagram. And they have their own YouTube channel as well. So subscribe to them. Great sponsor of the show. So, Daniel, before we get into it, got to ask the burning question everybody is wondering. All right, so Billy Napier, 4-3, kind of scratched and clawed his way, trying to keep his job, got this brutal stretch. So the question is, will he make it to the end of the year? Do you want to see a change at Florida? And what's your thoughts as diehard Florida content person? Like, where do you want to see this with Billy Napier going forward in his 3rd season? So,
yeah,
the ball is yours.
I'll start off with I guess the good. You know, do you want the good news or bad news? Good news is I really do think I've personally met Billy Napier, and I know recruits personally that I've known since they were like 11, 12 years old who love Billy Napier and do say he's the most genuine coach that they've ever been around. And you can't really discount that. But when it comes down to what do I feel he's going to get to the end of the year? At this point, I think whether it ends up being a dead man walking lame duck situation, or whether it's, you know, December 1st, the Sunday after the last game, and the news is dropped, I think Billy Napier is gone from Florida. Currently has a losing record with the Gators, and this year, to even get to 6-6 at this point, he's got to pull an upset against Georgia, Texas, LSU, or Ole Miss, and do something he's not done, and that's beat Florida State. Granted, again, Florida State's bad this year, but you never know what could happen. I've twice been there as he's pulled defeat from the jaws of victory against FSU the past 2 years. So I would, until I see it happen, I'm not going to put much stock in it. He's only got one rivalry win as coach of the Gators. So far, I believe the number is 1-9. Yes, I had to make sure I had Kentucky and Miami in there. We were 1-7 coming into the year. Not Kentucky, sorry. Miami and Tennessee. I have the schedule in front of me for something else, and then and saw Kentucky as I was saying Tennessee, or trying to say Tennessee. But anyways, he's 1-9 in rivalry games. Depending on what happens this week, could be 1-10. But I think the really killer is, and funny enough, I had a friend write this in for me to Andy Staples over the summer who reacted to it. Billy Napier's 3-8 or 3-15 as it currently stands against teams that finished with a winning record. We're not talking about 3-15 against ranked teams. We're not talking about 3-15 against teams with 10 wins. We're talking about teams that finished 7-6 or better. And 2 of those wins were year one. One of those wins was last year against Tennessee early in the season, and he's not had any this year. The way it looks, UCF's not getting to 6 wins without a miracle. Kentucky with that loss to Auburn has a real uphill struggle as they're 3-5 with trips to or with matchups against Tennessee and Texas and Louisville left. And I don't think 3 wins against teams that have winning records, or even if he got a fourth this year, you're talking you end up 4-17, 4-18 in 3 years. That I don't care if you're Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee. That's a terrible, terrible number. It's great that this year you finally started beating teams with losing records and not losing those games, but it's just unacceptable. I know that there's lots of, well, Florida does this and that with coaches every 3-4 years. And some of that is true. But I also don't see why you keep a coach who's not getting the job done. I don't know any school in the SEC besides Vanderbilt that would accept 3 straight losing seasons from a coach. It's something that, heck, 2 straight I don't think had happened at Florida since World War II, and now we're talking about 3. Possibly there is some talk about if he manages to get this 6-6, whether or not he stays. Personally, again, I go back to that record against winning teams. I don't think that's enough. I know there are some people that say, well, maybe let's see how that looks. Let's see which one of the 4 teams he beats out of the, non-Florida State teams left on the schedule. And let's see how he looks against Georgia, Texas. Is he competitive? And I think some of that is fair, but I also think at some point you've got to expect, when he said before the season, the systems are in place. I expect to see the results of those systems. And he hadn't said that in years past, although last year he also had a quote preseason. I believe it was on Feinbaum. I could be wrong, where he said, they don't know what I know yet when asked about the schedule. And then he came out and finished 5-7 after starting 5-2. So I know that's a big rant from me, but I want to be clear, like, here's my data reasons why I think Billy Napier should not be back in 25. Now, could he surprise me and end up pulling out 4 of the next 5 games? And could that change my mindset? Yeah. But before the season, I said to my listeners, I definitely put on Twitter some criteria. Some of that is you got to have a winning record in rivalry games after being 1-7 in your first 2 years. Pull that winning record. Don't get blown out. Win your home games. Well, we got blown out in 2 home games out of 3 to start our season. And currently our own 2 against rivals. And so we'll see how the season ends up. But as it stands right now, without pulling some upsets, it's really hard to see them coming back next year.
All right. You heard it there first. Daniel said they'll pull the plug. And then for recruiting wise, moving forward with a transition, no one likes firing a coach. When do you think would be the ideal time if you had to pick? Let's say he drops the next couple competitive games, but still lose, and maybe sitting at, 4-5, 4-6. When do you think they should make the move?
Well, personally, if they're up to me, with the way recruiting is currently 51st in the nation, I believe that's 24/7's ranking, I probably would have pulled the plug. But if you're going this far, I'm curious to how far we're willing to go. But also one thing I've said about recruiting, I don't touch recruiting too much on my podcast. I make a comment here and there, although this is one I definitely might say in a review. I'll probably wait, although any listeners out there watching this, spoiler alert, but I also don't feel like when you have a coaching transition, you're going to have a bad transition class anyways. But if he can't salvage like a top 10 class, which is what you need to compete in the SEC, we've not been top 10 high school recruiting at all. And I know it's kind of hard when you have questions about being on the hot seat. Well, what solves that? You win. Show recruits you can beat these good teams. But if you're not going to get a top tier class and you're going to end up 15th, 18th, which is a typical transition class at Florida, don't resign yourself, which is my worry about if we go 6-6 and rubber stamp, he'll be back. My worry is you're saying, okay, a transition type class is good enough this year at UF. And then if he doesn't produce next year, you're resigning yourself to a transition class for a second year in a row. And of course, as well as I do, Kirby Smart says it, recruiting's the lifeblood in the SEC. And
Right.
I don't think UF should settle for multiple transition type classes in a row.
Completely agree. And like I said, when you got to get that new coach in there as quick as you can, try to save some of those relationships. Didn't realize they were in the 50s on recruiting. Won't get it done these days. So sounds like the writing's on the wall.
Yeah. And that's before a legacy recruit who's been tweeting a lot of Miami recently. Hopefully he stays, but if he were to flip, not only would it be bad for recruiting ranking, but also as a legacy. His dad played for the Gators in the 90s, scored a defensive touchdown, I believe it was 94 SEC title game. That would be a big black eye to the program as well.
Right. We'll have to stay tuned on that. But looking at the cocktail party, as they call it, 3:30 ABC, can't say CBS. I missed the anthem, the theme song and everything on that. But 16.5-point spread. Georgia coming off the bye week, off the huge win over Texas, even though Texas kind of had a slugfest and very competitive game with Vanderbilt. Georgia's going to get healthy, hopefully getting some guys back. We're going to get Tate Ratledge, hopefully, or he did some things this week. Jared Wilson, hopefully healed up even more. Kyle Williams, hopefully get even healthier because he had 2 sacks, was very dominant in that game. So we're getting healthy at the right time. A lot of questions about Carson Beck because he did throw 3 picks in the Texas game. Can he trust some guys and get it to him? Can we get the tight end, maybe Oscar Delp going, Lawson Lucky? Also, I wanted to ask, we do have Trevor Etienne with the storyline, had 3 touchdowns against Texas, kind of coming into his own. Georgia's still, I think, in the 90s, like 95th in rushing, which is crazy. We're more of a pass-heavy team, pass-first team. Also, I want to get your thoughts on that. What's Gator fans and yourself feel about Trevor Etienne? I know he was a great running back for you guys, very good. What's the thoughts on him?
I'm an anomaly in Gator Nation. I'm sure my listeners are not going to be happy with me about this, but when he announced his departure for Georgia, all of a sudden the number one priority for running backs and number one skill running backs must have is not carrying the ball vision or anything we saw from Etienne, during his time at UF. It was pass blocking, which not saying that's not an important skill, but there were a lot of things we're going to miss about Trevor Etienne. And right now, he's at Georgia averaging 5.1 yards per carry. Obviously missed that first game. I'm kind of having flashbacks in a way. Florida in 2003, Brock Berlin moves over to Miami. Well, we face Miami and Brock Berlin. One of our guys says, we're going to hit him in the mouth. And then we end up having a complete meltdown and give away a big lead and lose that game. Only time I went to the trash heap known as the Orange Bowl. Thank God it's torn down. Whatever's there now, I think in some Marlins field has to be 100 times better than that. And that's really my feelings on the Orange Bowl. But yeah, hopefully what we've seen from the Gators doing better in run fits against Tennessee, against Kentucky, against UCF, 3 teams that are known for running the ball at the time. UCF, Tennessee were, in the top 5 in the nation, and running part of that could be due to soft, could be, I don't know. And that's where we'll learn a little more this week. Could be to their soft early season schedule, kind of propping up their numbers, or maybe we've seen the turn of the Gators offense, but haven't heard too much smack talk coming out, unlike we'll pop them in the mouth about Brock Berlin, but always just me ever since that game. I really hate hearing it ahead of time, but I think stopping Trevor Etienne will be a definite key for this defense. And I am nervous that if we don't, it's going to be a long day for the Gators.
Yeah, we'll see on that one. I think he's going to get motivated for it. Like anytime in the NFL, when a player gets traded, they always kind of get up for him. So I think there'll be some added motivation. Also, Carson Beck coming back to Jacksonville is going to be important. He played well last year. Him having some questions, I think he's going to be motivated, getting the extra week off the bye week, hopefully getting some players back. I just want to see him more accurate. I just want to see him kind of take some shots downfield. Don't do a lot of the screen passes because it just seems like they're extended runs. So I want to see him maybe hit Arian Smith, Dominique Lovett and company, just be more accurate. And I think he's got a good complete game coming. And I hope our defense will continue because that defense was flying around and aggressive against Texas. That's the best they look like Kirby Smart in the past. So I think Billy Napier is going to give them a puncher's chance. You guys are going to hang around, I believe. But I think we just got more talent, maybe even better coaching. But I'm going to go with – I don't think they cover because Georgia is only 2-5 against the spread. So I'm going to go 38-24. They don't cover, but a late touchdown to put it away. This will be a game in the first half. Georgia starts slow. So win the rushing game, more balance there, and win the turnover margin. Georgia should win, but I like 38-24. Daniel, feel free to give your pick.
Oh, man. Yeah, I think Florida – well, I hope Florida beats the spread. When I saw it, I'm like, that's another reason you should never at a place like UF, place like Georgia, some others, you should never be 16.5-point underdogs. I do think Florida beats the spread, or at least I hope we do. You talk about Georgia having slow starts. I mean, last year was kind of slow. I believe the year before with Napier was kind of slow until he decided, hey, let me run the clock out with 2 minutes left in the first half, even though I'm on my own 10. Oh, no, Kirby Smart has 3 timeouts. Oh, look, Georgia scored again before the half. That's the Billy Napier experience. And then I think even Mullins last year, the year when AR got his first start, I believe it was like 3-0 or 7-3 or something early in that game, up until that trilogy of turnovers in the last 5 minutes really changed the dynamic of that game. So I can hope for another slow start for Georgia. Hopefully Florida moves beyond the first drive. I mean, last year we saw the Gators go down, score on the first drive with Trey Wilson, and then he doesn't really get much touches the rest of the game, and we don't score another point until garbage time for all the crap our defense got last year. I think most of the first half they either got stops or held you guys to a field goal, and then the offense responded with goose eggs. So that's something we got to do better. I will say with DJ Lagway having that little more dynamic, better arm, I do think there's a chance that we see maybe we catch a few more shots where Graham Mertz again made this offense easier to defend if you had a great defense, simply because of the lack of downfield passing accuracy. Again, really like him. I'm not trying to bash him, just pointing out DJ brings a whole new dynamic to the offense without there being a ton of footage on DJ yet, and especially an offense that will probably change a little towards his strengths after a bye week. Hopefully we can catch that off. I know that I told your fans last year that I don't pick against the Gators, even if I know it's very unlikely. I think one of your fans last year cursed me. I ended up in the hospital the night before the game. Please don't do that again this year, whoever you are. Still got out at noon, drove up to Jacksonville, made it for the game. So you didn't stop me from attending. But anyways, I think the Gators could pull off a close game. Let's go with 27-24. Somehow Florida may get like a Gus Scott, I believe it was 2001, where we somehow get a pick six when we're down, and it changes the dynamic. And we'll see. I don't think we're going to hold you as low as we did Kentucky or whatnot. I don't expect an explosion of points like Kentucky, but maybe we get the pick six we got against Kentucky, and that could be the difference.
I mean, Georgia starts turning the ball over like they have recently. I believe it was 3 picks, 4 turnovers against Alabama. It could be a game. As you know, turnovers can create opportunities, so there's always a chance on that. Also, did want to mention Georgia's won 6 out of 7 in this series because, man, a lot of people lived through a lot of the misery with the Spurrier years, losing 9 out of 10. So Kirby Smart, another one. He's got this one circled from when he was a player. He always wants this one. He think he's 6-2 against them, so he'll be motivated. Hopefully, we can get out. But I think you guys will hang around. This will be a game. I don't believe this is going to be a blowout. Too much. Everybody's motivation for this one.
Yeah, that is the one fun question between the factions on Gator Twitter right now is everyone wants to win, but if we were to lose, do we want to lose close or do we just want to take the blowout so there's not a question continuing about Billy Napier? But I will say Steve Spurrier's, it was 11 of 12. I had to say that. Had to. That's when I grew up with Gator football. Of course, Ron Zook, 2 out of 3. It took him getting fired the week of the Georgia game to pull that off. Urban Meyer, 4-2. 5-1. Yeah. And then, of course, 2010s happened and everything reversed. Also, just one thing to look out for, very curious, does Billy Napier come out wearing Georgia colors again, i.e. wearing black on the sidelines, which a lot of Gator fans do not like. So that'll be something to watch as well. You can call it whatever you want, but trying to stand out, but when you're wearing a rival's colors in a rivalry game does not look good either. And like you said, Kirby Smart circles this. He remembers those Spurrier years as a player. This is a big time for him. For Billy Napier, he's on the stand talking about, I called Kirby to congratulate him on the win. Of course, that also will make you lots of friends in your fan base when you don't seem like it's a big rivalry deal to you. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay. Should be a great game. Also, Daniel, how do we follow your content online? Got your Twitter here, Gator Truth Football Podcast. Got over 1,400, moving towards 1,500 followers.
Yeah, if you want to follow, go ahead. Even if you're a Georgia fan, I don't mind. Talking the good, the bad of Florida. Hopefully, I haven't been too homer. I'm pretty sure I have not been on this one with all the Billy Napier talk. But sometimes I'll post things on the Twitter or even on the YouTube, Gator Truth, Florida Football Podcast. I mean, that video.
Look a little viral here. What is that? Who's the Kentucky player from years ago?
Cash Daniel. In fact, I have it right in there. I had to repost it because I typoed and said Powerade, not Gatorade, because I was thinking Gatorade and for some reason put Powerade. And so this was right after the pick 6 that really sealed that game. And so I told my wife we had 2 like third of the way full, 1 orange, 1 blue Gatorades. I was like, I'm going to do this. Hey, can you come slide over here to the aisle? And there's an aisle right behind that. It looks like there's a green screen, which makes me laugh so hard. But yeah, I totally did this. And there's, awesome. Everyone that was still there. I'm like, I got to have some fun with this because I had to watch that stupid Cash Daniel thing for years on SEC Nation. It would open up and that would be in there. So why not take the orange and blue? But I will say this, I ended up having to walk 1.5 miles across campus to get back to my ride because I missed the little bus that takes me there, and it was pretty chilly that night, so I paid for it just a little bit.
There you go, a little homage to Stone Cold Steve Austin from WWE, man. 2 beers,
exactly.
Awesome. Also, check out Daniel Gator Truth Football Podcast. He's growing on YouTube as well. 292 subscribers, getting close to 300 and growing. That's always great. Check him out on that.
Oh yeah, get me a 300, even if you just hate watch and comment, hey, Florida sucks. Don't worry, Tennessee fans do it from time to time.
There you go. Yeah, really appreciate it. And everybody check out Georgia versus Florida, ABC 3:30. And if everybody's still around, make sure to like, subscribe, share Dawg House Podcast. And we really appreciate Daniel coming on. And it was great connecting again through the college huddle.
Oh, yeah. Great time to join on. Definitely subscribe to Trey if you have not already.
Yeah, appreciate it. Hey, and we'll give you a Go Dogs and a Go Gators.